This series, A Newsreel History of the Third Reich, compiled entirely from original German newsreels and documentaries of the period, is not shown as an endorsement or glamorization of Nazism, but as a window into the past, demonstrating the tremendous influence this constant stream of subtle propaganda had over its captive audience. Emerging out of the turbulent period following the First World War, the National Socialist German Workers' Party, known as the Nazi Party, led by Adolf Hitler, for almost a decade was of minor consequence in the spectrum of German politics. After the crash of the American banks in 1929, the effect on many countries, including Germany, was virtual bankruptcy. Through this hectic period, Hitler's Nazi Party found favour, and in the 1932 July election, they became the strongest party in the Reichstag. In April 1933, Hitler became Chancellor and leader of Germany, and he immediately had the state-controlled communications media under his command. Dr. Joseph Goebbels had already set up his propaganda ministry and was preparing the way for Hitler's program of total manipulation and domination of the German people by stringent Nazi rule and well-orchestrated propaganda. The arts, music, radio programs, feature films, documentaries and newsreels were all subject to censorship, and in most cases the material was actually produced by the propaganda ministry. With the new talking movies in the 30s, the cinema was the major source of entertainment for the masses. Feature films, documentaries and newsreels became valuable media for indoctrinating the people. Using only the very best directors, cameramen, writers, editors and composers, propaganda minister Goebbels was able to produce footage which even by today's standards has visuals and sounds of high impact, showing victorious battle scenes on all fronts with very few German casualties, and the Nazi war machine being eagerly received by the conquered peoples, also devoting a great deal of time presenting the image of a united nation, fully believing and supporting their beloved Führer. This rare insight may help us to understand how the German people accepted and lived through peace and war under Hitler and the Third Reich, and to remind us that despite the entire world bearing witness to this evil period in its history, nationalism, tyranny and propaganda still survive today.
Fahne reiten wir, unter der Fahne reiten wir, unter der Fahne sausen empor, fahren wir alle nach vorne sehen. Unter der Fahne leben wir, unter der Fahne stehen wir, unter der Fahne sausen empor, fahren wir alle nach vorne sehen. Nicht der Staat befiehlt uns, sondern wir befehlen dem Staate. Nicht der Staat hat uns geschaffen, sondern wir schaffen uns unseren Staat. Die Bewegung, sie lebt und sie steht felsenfest begründet. Und solange auch nur einer von uns atmen kann, wird diese Bewegung seine Kräfte leihen. An mir zur Gruppe stoßen, zum Gau der Gau, und dann wird endlich diese gewaltige Kolonne der geeinten Nation nachfolgen, das früher zerrissene Volk Sieg!
German Weekly Newsreel. On the evening of 19th July, the German Reichstag Parliament convened to hear a policy statement by the Reich government. The Fuhrer on his way to the meeting at the Krolloper. Around 1,000 radio stations broadcast the Fuhrer's historic speech around the world in 30 different languages. The Fuhrer called for the Reichstag Parliament to be convened in the midst of the great struggle for the liberation of the German nation, explaining to all his peoples the unique historical significance of the political events taking place. He thanked our deserving soldiers and made a final appeal for reason to the British people. There could be no compelling grounds for continuing this struggle. The outcome would only otherwise mean the total annihilation of one of these two nations. The Fuhrer went on to say that Mr. Churchill may well believe that this would be the ultimate fate of Germany, but Mr. Churchill knew that it would mean the end of Britain. Germany's armed forces have executed the task set by the Fuhrer gloriously and will continue to serve their Fuhrer faithfully. Frontline units return to their garrisons following the annihilation of France. Berlin give their 1st Division to return a rapturous welcome. After the Commander-in-Chief of Reserves, Colonel General Fromm, received reports from the Gauleiter of Britain, Reich Minister Dr. Goebbels welcomed the victorious soldiers on behalf of the capital of the German Reich. He thanked them for their heroic services to the fatherland in defending the glory, the future security, and liberation of the greater German Reich. The German people and their soldiers are an inseparable bond in the battle for the liberation and the glory of the greater German Reich. Italy and Greater Germany are close allies and are therefore both fighting for liberation and Lebensraum, living space. The front extending from the North Cape all the way to Africa is now the main battleground for the two young nations in the war against the Western plutocracies. Shortly after Italy declared war, the Italian Prince of Piedmont battalion attacked French Alpine troops over a front of 200 kilometers. The victorious advancing Italian soldiers had to scale heights of 3,000 meters to take over enemy positions. They still managed to oust the enemy everywhere and advance far behind the French defense lines before the armistice was declared. Armored vehicles attack. They are armed with flamethrowers and are extremely effective even in this rough, mountainous terrain. The Italian Air Force gives strong backup to land troop attacking operations. Below us is the Riviera with its wonderful countryside, yet it is fraught with problems for the advancing troops. The fleeing enemy can put up all kinds of resistance there. Italian troops advanced into Menton, which was taken after fierce fighting. Il Duce, Mussolini, visits the Alpine front after the armistice has been signed. Chance meeting with a French parliamentarian at the demarcation line. The French request permission for one of their comrades killed on the Italian side to be brought over to France. Approval is given by Il Duce himself. Il Duce greets his soldiers after these victorious battles. The Italian fleet successfully attacked the British Mediterranean forces on a number of occasions, and thereby scuttled planned enemy operations against the Italian coast. Troops at work laying mines. Both troops and staff in colonial areas are subjected to extreme conditions, yet the British have sustained substantial losses here as well. On the Italian East Africa front with Kenya, they have successfully advanced 300 kilometers as a result of a series of bold attacks, marching through the arid steppes. Convoys of lorries on standby. They are scattered over a wide area in case of an air raid. Anti-tank defenses provide protection against British tanks. Gibraltar. According to Italian army reports, the British base was effectively bombed by the air force of the Italian Empire. These enormous fortifications built on the rock give the British superiority over access to the Mediterranean. Yet they claim that it is only maintained to secure their sea traffic to India and the Far East. However, Gibraltar is really a way of ensuring that all the Mediterranean nations support British and Allied interests. The British military rule here is arbitrary. The native population of around 1,000 Spanish are completely dependent on the goodwill of the British. Huge oil fires were put out by German firefighters in Loria. The British also razed everything to the ground here before withdrawing, thereby willfully causing an enormous amount of damage to valuable French property. The efficiency of the German crews meant that 1 million liters of oil could be saved. The British did not even bother to warn the local population beforehand. Whole streets were turned into columns of flame. Around 30 people were killed. Rebuilding is being carried out everywhere in the occupied areas. Everybody is joining forces under German leadership to eradicate the ravages of war. There are enormous piles of rubble to be cleared, as can be seen in these pictures from Rouen. Our railway engineers are on hand to replace makeshift bridges with permanent structures. Large parts of the French railway network have already been brought back into operation. German and French railway officials work together in signal boxes. Soldiers have taken the war, which was forced upon us by the plutocrats, deep into the heart of the enemy country. Now the inhabitants of the West German border areas are able to return to their homes, from which they had previously been evacuated for their own safety. Welcome to Marsigny. Bands playing music escort them back into the town, which is no longer under any threat of enemy attack, thanks to the Führer and his troops. The traitorous British pilots attacked Berlin during the night again and destroyed workers' homes with their senseless bombings. The British bombers were on target practice, according to Reuters, the British press office. The British government hypocritically claimed they would not terrorize the civilian population with air raids on residential areas, as the Germans had done in the Blitz on London. But what does the true picture reveal? Bomb-damaged workers' homes reveal the true intentions of Mr. Churchill, the most wanted war criminal of our time. England is more dependent on food and raw materials from abroad than any other nation in the world. Imports. All these materials can only be shipped in by sea. 80% of all food and between 80% and 100% of many raw materials arrive in England via a very small number of ports. The largest port is London. It is also the largest in the world. Over 40% of British imports arrive here. If these ports were disabled, then the entire British economy would collapse. Exports. In the case of exports, over 30% of these pass through London. The target of our bombs today is 50 kilometers north of the mouth of the Thames. The city, with a population of 8.5 million, covers a larger area than Berlin. These international docks cover both sides of the Thames. Enormous factories, warehouses, and office buildings line both sides of the river. London docks are on the left bank, surrounded by row upon row of tall warehouse buildings. Next comes Surrey Commercial Docks, where Scandinavian timber is stored. The sprawling East and West India docks are located along the inside of the main bend in the river. These are used for handling colonial goods. The largest docks cover 4 kilometers in length along the northern side. Here there are mills, cold storage depots, warehouses, and dry docks for the larger ships. The dock gates at the port of entry, which keep the wet dock area free of tidal flows, are extremely vulnerable. If these dock gates were breached, then the water would fall by 6 meters at low tide and all the larger ships would be grounded. To the south of the dock gates are munitions factories and the naval quartermaster stores at Woolwich Arsenal. To the north, there is the enormous Beckton Gasworks site, which covers 1 square kilometer. If you follow the Thames downstream, there are a whole series of electricity works, factories, and warehouses. Passenger steamers bound for London land at Tilbury docks to let off their passengers. And finally, in Thames Haven, there is an enormous fuel depot complex which runs over 8 kilometers along the river dock. An unbelievably large collection of major military key installations concentrated over such a small area inside a city with a population of 8.5 million. The Marshal of the Reich personally leads the retaliation attacks by the German Air Force in the Blitz on London from the Channel coast. A Ju-88, the most advanced horizontal dive bomber, prepares for takeoff. More and more cargoes of bombs are being wheeled alongside. The crews prepare for takeoff. The Blitz on London is about to begin. The command post of the Marshal of the Reich. Wave after wave of German squadrons roar past on their way to England. London is bombed day and night in air raids in which millions of kilos of bombs are dropped. We are flying over England. New squadrons move up under cover of darkness. Groups of British searchlights scour the night sky in vain, searching for German planes. There are the London Docklands burning. British anti-aircraft guns fire away with all their might. British anti-aircraft gunfire can be seen all over the sky. They are firing wildly off target. We are flying in closer towards the burning docks now to inspect this major work of destruction. This is the retaliation by the German Air Force for the nightly area bombing attacks by the traitorous British pilots on non-military targets in the German Reich. Reich labor service camps are being built in all parts of the new Gau district of Wartheland. Labor service men and women should contribute economically, culturally, and politically towards the developments in the recently recovered eastern regions. A departmental barracks in Posen is complete. The celebrations for the completion of the works and christening ceremony take place in the presence of the Reich labor service leader, Jorl, and the Gauleiter and Reichstag member, Greiser. The department is named after the SA senior group leader who was killed in the Polish campaign, Jochen Meyer-Guarde. Refugees who were German nationals and fled from Alsace and Lorraine can now return safely to their homeland with the protection of the German armed forces. Homeland, send my greetings to my homeland, Lorraine. Arrival at a central collection point. From here, the refugees will be returned to the individual local communities. They are now part of Germany again, and here, cleanliness is next to godliness. Special care is taken with the little ones. A milk supply station. The NSV Catering Corps makes sure that there is plenty for everyone. In the meantime, the labor service have been called in and have repaired the houses as far as possible. Farming equipment is being handed out here. The war was waged over the fields in Alsace and Lorraine all summer long, yet in many places the farmers will still be able to harvest crops from the seeds sown in spring. Thousands of Alsatian boys and girls who have joined the new German People's Youth Organization set up in Alsace met in Strasbourg. Hitler Youth members from the neighboring Gau district of Baden march over the makeshift Keller Bridge into Strasbourg. They bring greetings from the fatherland, Greater Germany. Minesweepers leaving a Norwegian fjord. They are to clear mine barriers laid by the British before the start of the Norwegian operation. Minesweeping equipment is used to detach the mines from their anchorage so that they float to the surface. They are then detonated from the boats. There is another mine on the surface. Mine detonation experts are dispatched in a dinghy to detonate it. The men detonate the mine and lay explosives. Attention! Stand by to fire! U-boats return to their home bases after completing successful combat missions. Each white pennant corresponds to one enemy merchant ship sank. The captain, Lieutenant Lemp, receives the Knight's Cross. He and his ship have sunk 11 ships with a total of 50,000 tonnage. All ships are immediately made ready for further combat missions. Torpedoes, the deadly weapons carried by our submarines, are taken on board. They set off to fight the British again. In the first year of the war with Britain, the German Navy sank over 4.3 million tons of enemy and Allied shipping. Defenses are immediately built by our troops along the German-held Channel coast following the end of the battle on the Western Front. Work is carried out continuously on new positions for our heavy artillery and heavy guns. Cement mixers supply the materials for the strong foundations. coastal guns are assembled. According to our Armed Forces report, our heavy coastal batteries immediately went into action, repeatedly attacking the port of Dover and destroying a British convoy. Every position is well camouflaged to foil enemy aircraft. The English coast is over there. In the workshop at a field airbase, a tactical group based here is to undertake a special mission to secure the Channel coast against enemy air attacks. After each inspection, the planes are immediately prepared for standby operation. Every minute counts if an operation is to be successful. British plane sightings have been reported. The first groups are already taking off to stage a defense. They must force the enemy back across the Channel. These are Messerschmitt 110 destroyers. They close ranks and move in on the enemy. Over the English Channel. Watch out! There's a British plane in front of us. He dives to avoid the hail of bullets from the German plane. Another attack. This time there are two British planes. A hit! The British plane falls to the ground in flames. Our anti-aircraft units have also prepared an enormous defensive ring stretching from the Norwegian coast to the south of France. Defensive fire from a heavy anti-aircraft battery. One British plane has penetrated the defense line and is now bombarded with light artillery fire. Its path is clearly shown up by flare ammunition. The British plane tries to avoid the fire by circling and diving without success. Young supporters of the Germany's recovery in Norway are joining the labor service as well. This is a camp for labor service women. There is no formal set of rules. However, this organization is strongly supported by the state. After the new arbitration agreement redefining the borders between Hungary and Romania was concluded in Vienna, the occupation of Transylvania by the Hungarian army was begun on 5th September after the territory had been evacuated by the Romanians. The Hungarian army thereby regained territory which had been taken away from them under the terms of the Treaty of Trianon. The administrator of the Reich, Admiral Horthy, leading his troops. The Honved army are welcomed with celebrations everywhere. The Fuhrer met the ambassador sent by General Franco, Home Minister Cyrano Sunier, for lengthy negotiations in the new Reich Chancellery. The visitor was shown units from the Adolf Hitler SS Liebstandart and police divisions by the SS Reich leader Himmler, a line of SS men in combat jackets. And here, the Reich organizational leader, Dr. Weil, shows the Spanish visitor the three types of Volkswagen. A great homecoming celebration was held for the returning evacuees in the presence of Reich Minister Dr. Tott and Gulletier Berkelstadt in Saarbrücken. These are men from the Tott organization who have been decorated with the Iron Cross for bravery in the course of duty. After the ceremony of liberation, representatives from all sections marched in the procession throughout the town. Westphalian workers pulled floats in the procession, depicting how bunkers are constructed. This is the first mine ever to be built, a beer barrel filled with black powder. It was designed by Werner von Siemens and Professor Heinrich. Today, the mine has become one of the most effective weapons in modern naval warfare. The continued success in the mining operations of British ports as part of the full-scale blockade campaign is the best proof of this. A factory museum shows their development, including the latest technology and equipment. A glass container filled with acid is inserted into a lead capsule. This is destroyed when it makes contact with a ship, thereby detonating the mine when the liquid is released. Women workers coating the lead capsules. Loading the explosive charge. Inserting the detonating device. Ready for the naval war with England. Mine layers on operations. The mines are primed. The mines are now ready to be laid, complete with dedications. The marching boots, which are so essential for all soldiers, are being made here. The leather is being prepared for processing. The soles are being cut out here. Heels are being pressed here. The leather for the legs is made soft and supple. In the cutting room, the legs are being stitched. This is how the leather upper is shaped. This shows the sole being attached. And here, studs are being put into the sole. The wounded play and do gymnastics to get back to peak fitness again. Here, stiffness in the finger joints following hand injuries is prevented by kneading and turning a small ball. Cleaning duty for our motorized troops in France. Anti-tank guns are cleaned. Tank gunners always make the best use of the local terrain, even if it is only to clean their weapons, as in this case. After they have been washed, the armored cars are resprayed. The captive balloon is still seen as the eye of the artillery, in addition to all the other opportunities for observation it offers. The firing is supervised and coordinated from this control center, high in the air. Stand by for liftoff. Slowly, the balloon is hoisted into the air. The observer is in continuous radio contact with the ground crew. Stukas pass the inflatable vessel on a combat mission. Italian bombers take off from an airbase in North Africa on a combat mission. Their target is Solom. These flights represented the beginning of the large-scale offensive in Egypt, where they managed to force the British to withdraw. Bombs are dropped on military camps and airfields around Solom. Britain is being hit more and more effectively in Africa and elsewhere in this way. Whereas Italian and German pilots would only ever make a direct hit on a military target, the war criminal Churchill continues to order the Royal Air Force to commit more and more blatant acts of murder. The hospital buildings at Bethel near Bielefeld are marked with 29 enormous red crosses of up to 30 square meters in size. By the light of the moon and under the bright light of flares, the cowardly British traitors dropped 8 high-explosive bombs on this refuge for the poor and the sick. 12 people lost their lives and 12 were injured, most of them seriously as a result of this ruthless act of murder. Representatives of the international press visit the scene of the murder. Not even the graveyard in Bethel was left untouched by the traitorous pilots. In these dormitories, 9 children were killed and 5 seriously injured. These are the victims of the British murderers who deliberately committed this vile deed. They will live to regret this day. The Marshal of the Reich, with his staff, visiting the tactical and fighter groups in northern France. Inspection of a military airbase. Deserving soldiers are awarded the Iron Cross. The Marshal of the Reich personally leads the retaliation attacks by the German Air Force in the Blitz on London from the Channel coast. planes taking off on combat missions again. A squadron of fighter planes cross low over the channel. They reach the English coast. The planes fly low over British soil. Every wood and hill provides cover against the British anti-aircraft fire. Slowly, they start to climb. The crew help one another to put on their oxygen masks. The squadrons advance towards their target, hidden by cloud cover. Fighters protect combat aircraft from attack by British fighter planes. A British airport. Bombs away, the bombs thunder down in free fall straight to the ground. Stukas attack and dive straight towards the ground. Stand by for a second dive bomb attack. Both the man and the plane are subjected to enormous stress. Gunfire all around. The Stukas prepare to dive, one after another. Enemy anti-aircraft fire from all sides. The operation continues unabated. Over the mass of the streets of London, the strategic military targets which are to be destroyed are close to one another here. Bombing Tilbury docks. Here you see the effect of our bombs on the oil tanks at Thames Haven. The retaliation attacks will carry on relentlessly. Each squadron flight attacks in turn. The raids continue day and night, hour by hour. The German Air Force retaliates mercilessly. Concert was held by the German Armed Forces in the Bull Ring in Madrid, in which 180 musicians from the services took part. "30,000 Spaniards gave our soldiers a rapturous welcome. One of the honorary guests was Home Minister Cyrano Saunier. And here you see General Moscadar, who heroically defended Alcazar. View of Tangiers, the capital of the international zone of the same name in North Africa, which constitutes one of the cornerstones for the West in the route to Gibraltar. This summer, Spain resolved to reoccupy this zone, which was originally a colony in Spanish hands for many years. This constituted the first step towards redefining the balance of power around Gibraltar. Naval infantry go on land from a Spanish warship to occupy Tangiers from the coast. Spanish troops approached the city by land at the same time. Enthusiastic welcome at the border of Tangiers, where the population consists mainly of Spaniards. Advancing into Tangiers. The commander-in-chief of the Spanish troops meets French ambassadors from the various government offices who are compelled to accept the situation of occupation. Severe political fighting began in Tangiers even before the outbreak of the war. Now all these problems have been solved in the shortest possible time, with the recent involvement of Spain under General Franco. Bulgarian troops move in to Dobruja. Under the terms of the Bulgarian Treaty of Kioba, Dobruja was to be returned to Bulgaria. Another of the wrongs from the Peace Treaty of Paris was thereby overturned once again. 240,000 of the 380,000 inhabitants of Dobruja are of Bulgarian origin. There were enthusiastic celebrations in Sofia in recognition of their return to Bulgarian nationality. King Boris leaves the cathedral after a Thanksgiving service. People come from all over the country to file past the royal residence in their thousands to welcome the king and his family. Men from the German Resettlement Commission for Bessarabia congregate in the Romanian port of Galați. Hundreds of vehicles are standing by for the individual resettlement commandos which are to be distributed over the whole of Bessarabia. Bessarabia, which became a Russian state in 1812, was given to Romania under the terms of the treaty concluded in Versailles near Paris in 1919. Russia never recognized this separation and contested this assignment at every opportunity. This summer, Russian troops invaded Bessarabia and regained possession of the country. The German nationals in this country are now being resettled under the terms of the German-Russian treaty, live mainly in the south of the country. In the main collection settlements in Galați, Reich, and Chilia, almost 90,000 people are gathering to be relocated within the German Reich until their final destination is determined. The resettlement commandos are being given a warm welcome in German towns and villages. The call for the return to Greater Germany. The time has come to decide. The resettlement is voluntary. A resettlement card is issued. Preparations for their departure. Every item of luggage must be labeled accurately. Their last church service in Bessarabia. And here you see the leaving party. The return of the Bessarabians, who are mostly of Swabian origin, will be a great boon for the German people. A great many of these people come from large families of farmers and are first-rate craftsmen. 8,000 people originally emigrated here 125 years ago, and now almost 90,000 are returning to help with the reconstruction of the German Reich. Welcoming a transport train in Graz. Greater Germany welcomes you. Nationalist supporters marching in Oslo. The emblem of this movement is the Olaf cross on the flag, and their aim is to unite all those in favor of the reconstruction of Norway. Mayor Vidkun Quisling, the leader of the nationalist movement, he declared in a great speech that the current Norwegian parliament would be abolished and a Reichstag would be set up in its place. All secret activities involving Freemasons and Jews would be banned. The capitalist system had now finally been overthrown in Norway. The opportunities for work and national reconstruction were now available. With Quisling for Norway. 1 year ago, Warsaw was captured by our victorious troops. Although the fate of the Polish capital was already sealed, the Polish commander-in-chief irresponsibly incited his poor people to put up hopeless resistance with the open support of the British. He only capitulated after severe bombardment and a long series of destructive raids by our Air Force. German troops then moved into Warsaw. Warsaw today, 1 year after the victorious outcome of the Polish campaign. Warsaw Main Station. The road used for the advance by the Führer has been renamed Victory Road. This was the location for a great celebration in commemoration of the capture of Warsaw in the presence of Field Marshal List and Governor General Dr. Frank. Burning houses in Le Havre. Traitorous British pirates indiscriminately bombed coastal towns in northern France overnight in the territory of the German Reich. Residential buildings and housing developments were apparently military targets according to the Royal Air Force. Yet they brutally attacked the homes of innocent civilians of their own former allies who had made great sacrifices for them. Men from a German firefighting regiment support the local fire brigade in their work. Here again, the symbol of the Red Cross for hospitals and field hospitals is the target favored by the British pilots. The same murder tactics are used every time. Reports were received from Vichy that the British had bombed parts of Le Havre, which contained no military targets at all, according to the French Transport Minister Berthelot after his visit to the bomb sites. This is particularly tragic for the French civilian population, however, as they had taken their former allies, the British, into their own homes. Their last remaining belongings are removed from the rubble of the buildings. These poor people are condemned to start all over again from this miserable situation as refugees, and their desperate plight stands out as a terrible indictment of those dreadful democratic warmongers. Coran, Dakar, Le Havre. This is how the British show their thanks. The British coast is continuously monitored from the other side of the channel. Alarm for one of the coastal batteries. According to German Armed Forces reports, the port of Dover was bombarded repeatedly with heavy artillery fire. Units from the British fleet which attempted to make their way forward to Cherbourg were forced to turn back under the barrage of fire from our coastal battery. German fighter planes take off from an airbase on the Channel coast. Their assignment is to provide cover for a tactical group in a destruction raid on air bases in southern England. The tactical group make their approach. The sky is closely monitored from all sides. Stand by! Enemy aircraft! A Spitfire zooms right past us. One wing is on fire. Stand by to regroup. The front gunner bombards the British plane with machine gun fire. A German fighter catches up, a Messerschmitt 109, the fastest fighter plane in the world. It dives towards the British plane. They both start shooting wildly. The British plane is hit. It falls straight to the ground. Its fate is sealed. The tactical group continues on its way without loss. Flying over the target. Bombs thunder to the ground. This footage was taken from other aircraft as they were flying low over the English air bases. The targets have been destroyed. Numerous units from our naval war fleet are berthed in the ports along the Kiel Canal and the Atlantic coast. A mixed formation sets off on a reconnaissance patrol. taking orders on board ship. Minesweepers accompany the formation. The cruisers turn about. Destroyers advance at three-quarter speed and provide flank protection for the formation. The cruisers lay a smokescreen around them. Speedboats, our Stukas at sea. They travel on ahead to find out the movements of the enemy far in advance for the formation. This is how Germany's fleet monitors the coastline and stops the enemy wherever they may appear.